The US would like us to believe that they don't dump. And that's perhaps the most interesting thing for listeners or readers and viewers to consider. Why do they dump? Because no one can tell me that a whole chicken prepared is a raw material. A whole chicken is a finished product. If you cut up a whole chicken, the pieces of that chicken will cost more per kilogram than the whole chicken because there's work in cutting it up, and you also lose a bit when you cut it up. In the US model, a whole chicken has a cost and a value when it's sold as a whole chicken, and when it gets cut up, it doesn't have a cost. Now, that's Monty Python, actually. It bears no relation to the modern world or any human world. Maybe it's Martian for that. So in January 2014, the NCC, the National Chicken Council, and USAPEC, the USA Poultry, Egg and Export Council, made representations to the US Congress saying that if they didn't get access to South Africa, then AGOA shouldn't be renewed. And that those representations were made publicly. And so the moment I found out about them, I realized we needed to get involved. So I wrote on behalf of the members to the DTI and Minister Davies, and we started then. And so I've been working on this since probably, by the time we'd written to Minister Davies, would have been probably early February 2014, and we're still actually working with Minister Davies right now as we speak, 2 and a bit years later, more than 2 years later. So that's why we're involved. We're not a government negotiator. It actually suited Minister Davies and South Africa that the two industries try and find a settlement. Otherwise, it could have ended up in court. So the two industries had got to the point where they'd agreed that a quota could resolve things, but they couldn't agree what the quota was. So when we kind of pinned it down, it was the two governments and the two industries meeting in the same room, actually, as it so happens in the South African Embassy in Paris, but sort of thrashing it out and finding a settlement. But it remained an agreement between industries, supported by governments. We have lawful duties in place, and in fact in the final version the US has conceded that those duties are lawful. They don't agree with them, but they have to concede they're lawful. They've just been given a concession against the lawful duties. They also had to agree that when the anti-dumping duties come up for renewal, that they couldn't use the quota concession against us in trying to have the duties overturned. Those were agreements that were made between the parties, and we keep our agreements. Hopefully they'll keep to their side of the bargain as well. Someone is like that advert that if you're as old as me, you'll remember. It's not inside, it's on top. It's on the outer surfaces, inside the gut, but on the outer surface of the chicken, on the outer surface is the skin. It's not inside the muscle. And so you were essentially using treatments to try and clean those outer surfaces. I've read an academic in the US claiming it would be completely impossible for the US to follow the EU model because they produce so many chickens. That's an irrational and illogical argument because you're controlling it per flock. So if you're incapable of managing your flocks, you're incapable of managing your flocks. The EU manages their flocks because they're capable. I would be wrong to say that we are exactly at the EU standard in South Africa. There's still improvement that I think is necessary, and we as an association are trying to support. We want the Salmonella Movement Protocol that DAF does to be updated. We've wanted that for a number of years, but it's been delayed for all sorts of reasons. Our job is to help this industry grow and to help the country grow. That's our job. That's what we've got to do. We've got to do all the things that are necessary to create a framework for growth. And that's why we're involved in this space, because imports take away from our growth. unfair conditions imposed on us, preventing us from exporting, take away from export-led growth. Imports take away from local growth, and all growth leads to job creation. Fighting for our space in the world in terms of trade is very essential for that. If anybody thinks by being meek you will win, then I think they need to go and join a mouse colony, because it doesn't work like that.